So, one of the biggest problems faced by spiritual entrepreneurs and people on a deconditioning journey is this experience of moving out of distorted polarity into balance. So, what often happens is, and this is really true from my personal experience and many of the people that I work with, they have come from a hyper distorted masculine template, approaching life with being in high powered positions where there is they are rewarded for productivity and output, and they're creating that for themselves in a way that is completely misaligned with their unique blueprint and how your own energy is meant to create, produce, and sustain yourself in a way that supports you financially. It feels nourishing to your soul and is in true what we call alignment. So what it often looks like, or typically looks like, is somebody has been working against the flow for an extended period of time. So they're working with deadlines, they're working with structure, they're working with having to make decisive action, work to goals. Now this could look like military position. It could look like, okay, priority 1 is this, priority 2 is that. I have every single hour of the day is mapped out in how I'm going to achieve this goal. And they've got no space for tapping into intuition, no space for tapping into their emotions. And what you have is an imbalance. There's no space for activating that feminine within them. And then you have the moment where this all falls apart because it's not sustainable, and your soul rejects it and says, okay, you're going to learn to bring out other parts of yourself that have been suppressed, repressed, or denied. And so what happens is you begin this deconditioning journey, and you begin to meditate. You cut off your consistent output. Maybe you leave your job, maybe you wander the earth as I did, and you find that many, many years go by and you're just following the flow, you're following synchronicity. But what happens is eventually you realize that nothing's changing. Your life isn't, you're not building the business that you want. You haven't built the systems that you need. You are not consistently producing and bringing your vision to fruition. So this is where we see the fracture. And suddenly you realize, there's something imbalanced. I can't follow through. I don't have clarity. I'm too stuck in my mind. Or I have so many visions and possibilities that I cannot seem to bring. Anytime it comes to actually take action and bring something to fruition, you're indecisive. You drop something, you select something else. This was a pattern I saw in myself last year. And I began to look at, again, my gene keys and realized that the two main gene keys that this was expressing itself through was gene key 9 and gene key 11. So gene key 9 in the shadow expression is where you are unable to direct your energy onto a laser beam focus. And when you are able to channel your energy into one direction and one outcome, your energy gains momentum. You become invincible. But the real problem underneath it is a distorted feminine and a distorted masculine, an underdeveloped masculine that needs to come into balance, where you might have been too much in the flow. And then there is all of the micro beliefs underneath: a fear of commitment, a fear of structure restricting your freedom, burnout. There's so many reasons when I began to actually look at why my masculine had moved from being hyper masculine and goal oriented and productivity based to underperforming, it was because I had never in the 6 years or 7 years of awakening actually integrated and restored and installed a healthy masculine template. I had gone from using stimulants, and I call it the wounded huntress, but we can actually talk about it through any template. I talk about it through gene keys, I talk about it through the feminine archetypes, and I talk about it through understanding polarity. So what came up for me was because I am intuitive and I'm able to tap in as soon as I identify something, I got very clear guidance from my higher self about what really needed to happen to resolve it. And I started to see that gate 50 in my human design, which is in my open sacral, I'm a projector, is actually positioned twice in Pluto. And I have 50 twice. It's also in my Venus. So I have it 3 times in my chart, and it's my EQ in my Venus sequence. So I saw very clearly that my masculine, where it wasn't safe in my intimate partnerships and why I kept repeating patterns there, it wasn't safe within. I hadn't ever cultivated a safe internal masculine. And that was my work. Now, I also have this issue through the lens of gate 11. The struggle here is so many ideas and so many potentials, and having a real challenge being able to select and focus on one decision and bring that through, or having a vision so big but not taking those micro actions again to bring it through. And you can find yourself developing a comfort zone mechanism where you begin to research more and take less and less action because you're finding yourself enveloped in the passion and the joy of studying, researching, exploring, building, and even mapping out multiple different versions of your plan, but not taking that action. So through the lens of gate 11 or gene key 11, we see how this distorted masculine plays out. My client said a really beautiful thing to me in our session the other day, and he said, well, if we have all of the gates and all of the gene keys, because I ultimately said, the issue right now is building a strong internal masculine balance. It's about recultivating the balance. And he said, so if everybody has to balance their divine masculine and feminine, how does it link only to gene key 11? And my answer is right now. What I now understand is that everybody has the job of integrating their internal masculine and feminine, but how that plays out is going to be very specific, and the challenges that they face will be specific to their unique map. So for me, it's a combination of 50, 9, and 11. For others, it's 11 and 30 with commitment, whatever it happens to be. So I hope this has been enlightening. And if you are somebody who is ready to integrate and bring that balance, to start following through, to bring visions to fruition, to stop operating from an imbalance of one side or the other, my work is for you. If you want to stop feeling dissatisfied and misaligned and unable to relax, switch off, if you're always responding to things with more doing, when actually you could make it a lot more easier by developing more flow and more trust. Because how you create quantum shifts and how you create exponential growth and how you move through life with flow over force is by understanding how to cultivate your intuition, learning to trust, learning to tap into the side of you, the higher self that knows. So what I call this, I call it the magician consciousness. You tap into the magician consciousness. So I like to talk about this through the 4 survival archetypes, because ultimately the patterns that are driving everything are driving from the 4 core survival archetypes that we all have. The saboteur or the logician, the one that needs to know, that needs to map it out, that needs the logic, the steps, and then the prostitute. Where do you sabotage and where do you sabotage yourself or sell out for belonging or stay in misaligned dynamics because you're scared that you, well, you're just scared, or where you're asking for permission, where you're still looking outside of yourself, or you're asking for permission from your husband or anybody else, because you're not building that internal deep sense of trust and knowing. We need to look at what are the core patterns, what is underneath. And once you've understood this, which is exactly what I diagnose in my sessions and in my one-to-one 4-month container, is how to bring you into balance, to create in a way that allows you to actually stop making it so difficult and hard for yourself and start to lean into the actual alignment, which means congruence, identity is aligned, your subconscious, the energies and your intuition is giving you insight and information that makes your creative life, your entrepreneurial journey, the way that you operate in intimate partnership, pleasurable, successful, easeful, and profitable. If this resonates, I'd love you to reach out and book a call with me to see if you're ready to enter into a one-to-one bespoke container to transform your life and create from more flow and less force